The Michigan primary is Tuesday. To talk more about the presidential race, we're joined by two members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. One supports Clinton, the other Sanders. Here in our studio in New York Congressmember Yvette Clarke. She's just returned from Flint, Michigan, as part of a Congressional Black Caucus delegation. She endorsed Clinton for president. And with us from Tucson, Arizona, Congressmember Raul Grijalva, co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. He was the first member of Congress to publicly endorse Bernie Sanders for president. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Why you're supporting Hillary Clinton, Congressmember Clarke? What are the most important issues, and how did you think they were expressed in this debate?
Well, as a New Yorker, I have had the opportunity to work with Secretary Clinton when she was our senator, and I know that she has an in-depth knowledge of the challenges faced by the people that I represent in the 9th District of New York. Having said that, I think that Hillary represents a lot of the dreams and aspirations of the people that I represent in Central Brooklyn, whether it's comprehensive immigration reform, whether it's health care reform, whether it's looking for opportunities for those who have been marginalized in our society. She's been very vocal and outspoken and has actually worked on legislation to make a difference in their lives.
Raul Grijalva, thank you for joining us from Tucson. You are supporting Bernie Sanders. Can you talk about why and why Senator Hillary Clinton does not, how former Senator and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton does not meet your goals for what you'd see the Democratic presidential nominee to meet?
Thank you. Well, 2016 is indeed become a watershed year, and one of the reasons that I'm supporting Bernie, I know him, he's a friend. That aside, I really think that the envelope for our democracy needs to be pushed further than it's been pushed, and the fact that Bernie has very forthrightly and in a very strong way spoken to, I think, the ideals and, quite frankly, the aspirations and frustrations of the American people in terms of the economy, in terms of the injustice that we see economically and socially in this country, and in terms of saying we can do better, and that the constant drumbeat and a necessary drumbeat that Senator Sanders has brought into this election about the concentration of power and wealth, the role of Wall Street in making decisions for the rest of us, and the fact that that needs to be broken up, I think has been the primary reasons why I'm there. I also think that setting the bar high is, I think, the important point with the American people right now. The 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of status quo politics is not going to work anymore. And part of the frustration that you see in this election year is the fact that the American people are searching for something that is of a higher value than what they're used to. And for me, that was Bernie, and that's why I'm supporting him.
You live along the border. The trade agreements from NAFTA on, of course, NAFTA, what President Clinton considered one of his finest achievements at the time. The effects of these trade agreements up through TPP.
Well, the borderlands is now a militarized zone since 9/11. And beyond that, economically, if you were to take the 100-mile strip along the southern border of this country, it would be the poorest state in the country, with every indices being at the lowest, unemployment the highest, infant mortality the highest, communicable disease the highest, unemployment the highest. And that is directly attributed to trade policies that shifted jobs and also shifted the attention of the American people from building an economic base in these borderlands to beginning to treat it as a barrier and a wall and a security issue only. The effect that free trade, and NAFTA in particular, and CAFTA, and the other ones coming down the pipe, have had on the borderlands and in the Rust Belt of this nation, the manufacturing backbone of this nation, has been devastating. Millions of jobs lost. And the fact that we are speaking directly to that Bernie Sanders campaign and say these are failed policies, I think is important. And I think the American people realize that the race to the bottom began with NAFTA.
Congressmember Yvette Clarke, where you stand on these trade agreements?
Well, I've been against the trade agreements as well, leading up to TPP. However, I think that it's not totally fair to attribute NAFTA to Secretary Clinton. Certainly that was her husband's policy, and I think that we've seen, as she's gotten around throughout this nation, really drilled down and taken a look at what these trade agreements have done in terms of the gutting of U.S. manufacturing, U.S. jobs. She has had a change of heart, and she is moving forward to look at alternatives and ways in which we can keep manufacturing in the United States. She spoke about some of the penalties she would look at levying against those companies that accept our incentives to be in the United States and then make a decision later to leave. So it's not that there's not a level of understanding of what this means to the United States. I think that Secretary Clinton is well informed and ready to do what needs to be done to help the United States manufacturing sector.
How do you respond to Bernie Sanders saying yes, but she comes late to all of these issues after making the wrong decision, he says, whether you're talking about the trade agreements or the Iraq war, and that late can cost thousands of lives?
Absolutely. I agree with him, but I would say he's late on the gun issue. They have a lot of issues. As representatives, you know, we have to weigh a whole host of issues. And depending on where we represent in the nation, for him, Vermont is a hunting area. So, you know, I think that hypocrisy is enough for everyone.
Congressmember Raul Grijalva, on the gun issue, Bernie Sanders says he got a D- rating from the NRA. Certainly in Tucson, it was brought home fiercely to you in the last years with the shooting and almost killing of Congressmember Gabby Giffords. This terrible, the horror of what took place there. Your assessment of Bernie Sanders' record on guns?
I think that Bernie, and he said it before, that this is an issue, as my friend Yvette just said, that people evolve into. And his position, for many of us, needed to be stronger than it was. But the fact remains that central to this whole, the whole discussion and for this presidential election on both sides is the economy of this nation. The structure, the systemic issues that continue to affect us every day, affect working folk every day, issues of minimum wage, those cut across every line and every specter of American society. And those are the central issues to that. And to say that, you know, what happened in Flint, the discrimination, the racism that we've seen in Flint in terms of denial and neglect, it's also systematic to a system that is controlled at the top by very few, and wealth dominates the policy direction of our states and our communities, and those that are marginalized continue to be even worse marginalized. There's a systemic reason. There's a root cause, and the root cause is this imbalance in power and wealth that we have in this country.
Last night's debate, both candidates were asked about their position on fracking.
You know, I don't support it when any locality or any state is against it, number one. I don't support it when the release of methane or contamination of water is present. I don't support it, number three, unless we can require that anybody who fracks has to tell us exactly what chemicals they are using. So by the time we get through all of my conditions, I do not think there will be many places in America where fracking will continue to take place. And I think that's the best approach, because right now there are places where fracking is going on that are not sufficiently regulated. So first, we've got to regulate everything that is currently underway, and we have to have a system in place that prevents further fracking unless conditions like the ones that I just mentioned are met.
Senator Sanders,
my answer is a lot shorter. No, I do not support fracking.
And there you have a difference. You, Congressmember Clarke, are from New York, where the governor, Cuomo, has enforced a moratorium on fracking because of the tremendous popular revolt against it.
Absolutely. And I agree that there shouldn't be fracking. We have crossed a Rubicon into renewable energy. which is where we should be investing right now.
And Congressmember Grijalva.
Yeah, I agree. The position, no. You know, look, you have an instance like Oklahoma. If you leave it to the states to decide, with the earthquakes and the danger being posed to aquifer contamination, the earthquakes that are going on that have not occurred historically in that state, in that part of the state where fracking is occurring, and the state continues to do nothing about it in a regulatory way, then what is supposed to happen? I think it has to be a general policy.
I want to end with Congressmember Clarke. You're from the same city not only Hillary Clinton represented, but Donald Trump is from, and his waffling on the Ku Klux Klan.
Well, it's unbelievable that in the 21st century that we'd have a presidential candidate that has to waffle on the issue of the Ku Klux Klan, of racial discrimination and bigotry. And it's really unfortunate that Donald Trump is using his presidency, his candidacy.
We're going to have to leave it there. Yvette Clarke, Raul Grijalva, thanks so much.